Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second installment of Anna Raftery's TAF report in video. Today, we're going to be talking about Anna's times in Toronto, which was the second destination on her TAF trip. One thing we were going to mention just before we start is that it was pointed out last time we recorded that knowing how old Anna is now and how old she was back then might be useful. So, Anna, how old are you now?
I'm 34. I'll be 35 in a couple of weeks. Well, like a month or so. I don't know.
So you'd been 31 when you were in your TAF trip.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel that that was very important? 31, good age for going to America?
I guess so. I think there was a little bit of not necessarily growing up, but being a bit more comfortable with myself in the last few years. But you know,
That makes sense.
I am a millennial, so who really grows up anymore?
You were born at some point in between yesterday and 40 years ago, if I understand millennial definitions correctly. So you went to Toronto after New York. And
Hello.
what's that?
Hello, everybody. I'm Anna.
Oh, yes. Yes. That's a good point. Who are you again? Anna. Okay.
It's all right. Palindrome. Anyway, yes, I went to Toronto.
Yay.
Yay! Shall I wait for it? Sorry, this is such a great start. Yes, I flew from New York to Toronto when we could still fly, and I was picked up by I'm trying to think of what to say. I don't know. Actually, one thing. Sorry, you've reminded me of one thing that is relevant. Is that at the time, what difference the time makes is I hadn't been diagnosed with sleep apnea yet. And so this
Oh.
leg of the trip is the first leg of the trip where I am being driven around a lot, which means that it also sees the first leg of the trip where I get into a car and immediately fell asleep. It was like a switch. It was very severe at the time. It was, I think just after I got back was when I finally got diagnosed with sleep apnea.
Oh, wow.
So I was basically, a lot of the time when I was driving around, I was just sleeping, which probably meant I was not the best company. So I really apologise to all of my amazing, lovely drivers and hosts. I was just kind of sleepy all the time, because that's just how I was in life at the time.
That is 100% fair.
Yeah.
So you stayed with Colin Hines and Catherine Crockett. Yep. And how long did you stay with them for?
I stayed with them for, I don't remember how many days I stayed with. I stayed with them for the whole time I was in Toronto.
Okay.
And it was so lovely and welcoming and relaxing. So I hadn't met them beforehand. They took me to an lovely burger restaurant when I arrived, and I've already forgotten what it was, but there was a whole thing about the fry. Oh, I said that I would only have one food story, and I immediately start with a different food story.
It's good.
Good burgers and fries when I arrived. But yeah, it was really lovely and comfortable staying with them. That was really nice. I also had the benefit of I could stash a couple of things in their bags for to bring over to the Worldcon. So I think I left a couple of things with them as well, which was really nice.
Yeah. So because this is the first leg of your trip where you're staying with people that you hadn't known before you went. So how did that feel? Was that nerve-wracking? Were you nervous about it?
Yes. I was very nervous about it. I think we kind of vaguely communicated beforehand, but it was mostly through like Jim and Colin, Kurt and Claire. So other people have mostly been doing the communication. But they were just so friendly. I think Catherine was the one who picked me up from the airport. Just like really nice people, and so it just felt really comfortable.
Hmm.
And yeah, I found that quite quickly. I felt okay with it, which was really nice. I was nervous when I arrived, but it's hard not to feel
Yeah.
comfortable with them and at their house as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
So
was something that I think also meant the rest of the trip, having that as such a positive first experience, meant the rest of the trip I felt a lot more comfortable and confident as well.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so you mentioned that you did most of the talking to them through Jim Mowat and Kurt Phillips, who were the TAF administrators at the time.
Yes.
So was that true for most of the people you stayed with on your
Um,
trip, or?
yeah, I think most of the communication was through them or Claire. There are a couple of times where I just wasn't getting any information. And I think in the last session, we talked about how I coped with some of the anxiety. And one of the things was planning everything as much as possible. So having an idea of not necessarily like minute to minute, but this day I'll be with these people or doing these things and stuff like that. Or
Yeah,
even these 2 days, these people are going to organize something for me to do. So at least I
yeah,
knew. And so there definitely were some times where I was like, am I going to be doing anything? Or will I need to sort something else myself? And obviously a lot of those things kind of for New York ended up being very haphazard and last minute. So that part of the trip almost felt like it wasn't really as much part of the trip because it was all kind of a bit
yeah.
not ideal. So yeah, I think most of the communication was through them or Claire. Though some people I spoke to directly. I think I spoke to Ulrika and a couple of other people that I kind of saw later on more directly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you kind of explored Toronto and Niagara Falls with Catherine and Colin, I guess.
No, so I went to well, do you want to go on to Niagara Falls?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very jealous because I didn't get to go on mine, so I want to hear all about it.
It was actually with oh shit, it was with uh and this was the one thing I actually looked up to remember with Marty, was it his name? Oh gosh, this is can we drop this in the transcript and edit that
Yes, yeah, yeah, definitely.
we went with, because they were fantastic and lovely, and I slept the entire fucking drive and they were fine with it and looked after me very well. Basically for Niagara Falls, it wasn't with Catherine and Colin. I got up really early in the morning.
Yeah,
Somebody later on or in the comments will be like, oh, it was this person, how could you forget? But anyway, so what were we saying, really really early in the morning I had to go get a train,
yeah.
and I got picked up and drove out to Niagara Falls.
Hmm,
um,
hmm.
Murray, thank you, Mary Ellen Moore, thank you.
What? I love Murray Moore.
Mary Ellen, yes.
He is half of the people
I
that
was
have
like,
written locks
shit,
on my podcast.
they're so nice. But I was just
Yeah,
like,
he's lovely.
oh god, oh no. I got to see them at Dublin, which was really nice to see them again. But
Yeah,
yes, Mary and Mary Ellen. Thank you. Was that Mark or Claire?
yeah, it was Mark.
I knew it would be one of them who would save us.
Yes.
Save from my terrible memory. Anyway, yes. So really early in the morning, went and got a train out to
Oh,
somewhere,
okay.
and Mary and Mary Ellen picked me up. And like I said, I like almost immediately fell asleep. I feel so bad that I was just like the worst. Like obviously at the time I hadn't realised what the reason was.
Yeah.
and I was trying to stay awake, but yeah. Anyway, and yeah, so going out was pretty much fine. It was also really, like, when I was awake, it was really quite gorgeous scenery, but it's quite a
Yeah.
dry, and there was lots of I it was Claire. um and at the time it was like through the peach orchards, and those people were selling peaches on the side of the road, and all you can smell was peaches, and it was completely amazing. And so yeah, it's quite a long drive in order to get there at a decent time, because obviously
Yeah.
you get very busy. And because we were on the Canadian side, it's
Yeah.
actually a much better view
Okay.
on that side than the American side, because the American side is the side that the falls are actually on for the most part,
Yeah.
which the Canadian side is looking on the falls,
Mm.
so you can actually see them instead of kind of being next to them. But it's also this
Yeah.
slightly surreal thing of looking over, and there's like still loads of people, and then on the other side there's loads of people, and it's just very odd juxtaposition somehow. But yeah, it was just really loud.
Okay.
And really, it was just a really gorgeous day as well. And they indulged me, like, in going. We didn't go on the boat because I was like, I don't think I could do that. But they did indulge me going like downstairs into there's like a viewing platform, and they give you like a plastic bag raincoat because it's so wet down there. And that was kind of quite a thrilling experience. It's just like this deafening sound all around you, and you just kind of get soaked. But yeah, it was really lovely, and I just probably one of my favorite days there. And is there what's the shit?
Is there a gift shop with little plastic lions? Obscure TV reference that can be ignored.
Okay.
Thanks, honey.
I think you should put ignore this comment other than jokes before we start reading. Anyway, I don't remember if there. I was almost certainly a gift shop. I don't remember if I got anything at the gift shop.
What was the tackiest thing you bought on your TAF trip? Like that just
Oh, I think I was quite good. Do you know what I did get while I was there? Because I had a long conversation with some people at, well, we'll get to the party and stuff later. But I think Colin got me a bottle of Ungava gin, which is a Canadian gin. Because I was talking to them about how much I love gin, obviously. That hasn't changed in the last 4 years.
no.
And so, as you're well aware, and so yeah, I think my main gift coming away from that was the Ungava gin.
That is not tacky. That is a very tasteful thing.
It was like tasteful in many ways. It was delicious. I'm trying to think if there was. I don't think so. I don't think I got many tacky things. When we were in Las Vegas, I bought a fantastic dress to go to the Hugo's Inn. I don't think I bought that. I'm like, I must have bought stuff, but I can't really remember what I bought.
I think
I spent money on.
The thing that sticks out to me that I bought is I bought Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, if I recall correctly, because you couldn't really get it on disc in the UK, so I just got that. But yeah,
there were probably like certain TV shows, or like I think there might have been a couple of TV shows that I got, but I can't remember what they are now. It was impossible to get over here at the time.
Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't remember what they are now.
That's fair.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? I think I might have gotten Veronica Mars.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So I think that was probably, and that's also not. It is so good, but it's also not tacky, I think.
Yeah. No, it sounded like you were dangerously tasteful. So yeah.
I think I was just not trying not to spend money recklessly. Also, like when I was spending money, obviously my money, I was more things like I'd rather buy people dinner and like pay for other people for doing things like that, just for hosting.
It's
So
better.
yeah. Oh no, I probably bought like loads of comics, and I'm pretty actually. When we get to San Francisco, we can talk about what I spent. Wait, no, Seattle. Sorry, we can talk about more.
Okay.
I've just remembered.
Excellent.
Actually, no, I did buy some stuff. Anyway, but yeah, so Niagara was probably one of my favorite days. It was Mary and Mary Ellen were so lovely. I felt so guilty just like sleeping the entire way, and they were just like, no, it's fine. And it ended up being just such a surreal and serene experience. It was really, really
Yeah.
nice. So yeah, that was good. And then I think it must have been on the way back, we stopped at this is I think my one food story for today. We stopped after last week, which was all about food, at a Regency tea house.
Excellent.
But like English Regency. They were in the full like Jane Austen like Empire waisted gowns
Oh
with like,
wow.
I know, with like bonnets and all this stuff, and I was just like, yes, we have to stop here. Oh my god. And I was trying really hard to not just go, oh, really rude. Condescending is probably the better word. I was trying really hard to like not just be like, what the hell are you doing? And there was a whole thing about how like the building had been, I think one of the things was the building was built from that at that time, and was like however many hundreds of years old. And there's again, as an English person, there's an element of, oh, like yeah, that's nice. I mean,
Yeah.
the house we grew up in was older than that, but that's fine, yeah, because it's just a terrace house.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there was that element of like, oh, that's really nice. And yeah, so it was a very, it's that slightly kind of that Anglophile
Yeah.
version of, you know, and we have the same kind of Americana fake places and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a very surreal experience. They didn't even have Earl Grey tea, is one of the other things I remember. It was really hot, so I think I got an iced tea or something. But they didn't have, I was like, no, that's a basic.
There is nothing better than North American replications of English things. Like, it is such a good genre of things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that all of our North American friends would say the same thing about English versions of that type of thing. But yeah, so the food thing that I promised was I had a I think it's peach shortcake.
Okay.
Cool. So a shortcake is like a scone, but with like but big and
Okay.
an insane amount of cream and like honey macerated fresh peaches.
Oh,
I know, exactly. Yeah.
this is very unfair.
You need a moment alone because I'm
Yeah, like, oh.
Jesus. Oh, actually, I finally sourced flour. Sorry, this has nothing to do with the TAF prep. This is a lockdown issue. I finally sourced flour by
Yeah.
ordering from a mill. So we have a lot of
Yes.
flour. But I might make scones. Anyway,
Yes.
it was really, really tasty.
It sounds amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, and then we ended up I think by the evening when we finally were arriving back to kind of Toronto area for me to head back to Catherine and College, because it was just all day, just get out there. We end up being stuck in traffic for ages as well. So Murray is just like a hero for spending an entire day driving and stuck in traffic with a TAF delegate who's asleep in the back and not even providing kind of entertaining commentary. So yeah, and then we he took me, we went to like a fish restaurant, a fish and chip style restaurant, but obviously very good fish. There was that element of fish and chips and tea.
This is excellent.
Yeah, it was pretty excellent.
I was looking through the photographs you took when you were in Toronto, and you've got a photograph of a tea towel with lots of peaches drying on it, which I think I recognise as being taken in Catherine and Colin's house. And it made me laugh because one of the photos I have from when I was in Toronto on my TAF trip is a photograph of lots of peaches in Catherine and Colin's house. So I saw it and it just made me smile because I was like, oh, that's nice.
The time of year where you're using peaches. Yeah, so I must have picked up some peaches. I'd forgotten about that. Oh my God. I mean, I love peaches anyway, but that was just phenomenal. I don't think I'd had something taste like that before.
That's excellent.
So yeah, that was the Niagara Day, which was a full day. It was pretty amazing.
That's excellent. I like that. And so the other touristy thing that there are photographs of in your Toronto photographs is the Merrill collections. Do you want to tell people what the Merrill collection is and sort of talk about?
Am I going to do this correctly? Okay, so the Merrill collection it's at the
Toronto Public Library, I believe.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The Toronto Public Library, and it is essentially a collection of just all science fiction and fantasy published. Yeah,
I don't know if it's like a library of record, but it's certainly the largest collection, I believe, in the genre. 80,000 items, the Toronto Public Library website informs me.
I had to do it off the memory. But yes, so that was amazing. And it was also that kind of surreal thing of like we turned up and it's a huge building anyway. Like, my God, even like we don't have that kind of thing here. Even the British libraries doesn't have that same kind of grandeur as when you go up. It's like so many floors up, this huge building. And we go up to the floor where the Merrill collection is, and there's like some students having a little mini lecture or something. And we just kind of walk in, and Catherine's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to go into the back room where they have all of the kind of first editions and really beautiful like and historical kind of documents and books, and just walking through. So there's an element of a ha ha ha, yes, we're super important, which is always fun if feels like playing. But yeah, I think I cried. I have to say, I'm pretty sure I cried. I think they showed me there was some like Anne McCaffrey, and there was some probably some Bujold and some just other kind of writers that were really significant to me when I was like learning to read, and as well as kind of having the dyslexia. Like then I'm not one of those fanish stories of I was a child of like 5 reading Lord of the Rings or whatever, and kind of that was my only escape. Like I didn't get that part of that escape until I was a teenager, really. That's not great, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't have, like, when I finally was able to confidently read, it was amazing, and it did open up so much to me, but it was a later in life for me. Well, it was like 14 or 15 where I actually was able to read myself.
Yeah.
But it's still that very kind of significant time when you're a teenager, and so that was really amazing. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I cried when I saw some of the books and some of the like documents that they were showing me. It's wonderful that it exists in the world, and I was really kind of quite honoured and touched that this experience meant that I got to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the first kind of touristy thing you do on your trip, which is explicitly genre focused, right? I guess, unless you
I think
count
so.
some of the persuasion. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. What did I go see? Hades Town is definitely because it's based on the Orpheus and Eurydice's Greek legend, and so there's an element of that kind of mythology. Fun Home is based on a comic, so I'm not sure if it's necessarily genre, but I think it's genre adjacent, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. It's the most, probably other than really the World Con, it's the most explicitly genre thing. I think I can't really
That
think
makes sense.
as explicitly that.
Excellent stuff. And I know that I don't know the exact timings, but there was also a party at Colin and Catherine's
Oh.
house, and I remember they threw me a party too, and it was a highlight of my trip. So I'm keen to hear stories of yours.
Yes, the party was amazing, and there was also quite a lot of Canadian filkers who are also obviously who knew them, and so I got to see Judith and Dave Heyman and a bunch of others, and now I'm going to forget who. Let me have a look at the cheat list. But yes, Peggy, Warner, and Shirley and Ken, and it was just really. It was nice because it was kind of a really kind of chill, and it just felt like a fanish party that we've had at like the Mark and Claire's, or if we're like at any kind of just house fan party. But
Yeah.
there was also like some filking and singing going on, and I had my ukulele with me, and so I sang a few things, and so it was really lovely to have a bit of both going on. And I
Yeah.
met some, though I knew some of those people from obviously from the filk community, and also from years before I'd been technically a guest of honor at the Toronto Filk Festival. FilkCon.
Wow.
Yeah, I was part of the Nearly Music Consort, which is the UK Filk Choir, and
Okay.
we were the guests of honour. But because there were a dozen of us, a fan fun trip. Technically, I suppose it is technically a fan fun trip because we were into Filk guests, which is kind of a fan fund. Because there were so many of us, we were all the guests. So we were like we were technically the Toastmasters. We were the guests of honor. We were the international guests of honor. We were the interfilk guests. So basically every type of guest, but there were like 12 of us, so we were the only guests. Because normally,
What?
yeah, I was. Oh, I don't remember how old I was. Emily will. No, there we go. Emily was as well.
So you had already won a fan fund before you went on tap. This is a scandal that's coming out.
Yes, technically. Well, it wasn't necessarily winning, but we were invited. Yeah, so
Oh, that's
technically,
lovely.
yes, I've previously been a fan guest of honor, so it's not necessarily fan fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's this weird 2007 pre-birthday. Oh, somebody else do the math. 21. Yeah, okay, that actually makes sense. 21.
Okay.
Yes. I definitely drank, but I mean, if I was over 18, I probably wouldn't anyway.
That's fair. No, I
Yeah.
think I went on my TAF trip when I was 22, and one of the reasons I didn't run when I was 20 is because someone pointed out that would mean I wouldn't be able to have anything to drink, and I was like, this is a good point.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
that
yeah,
is.
so when I was 21, so as we worked out earlier, I was about 31 on this trip. So it had been a decade. I don't think they have been over to a UK corner. If they have, been so many years, but there was that kind of remembering that trip when I was 21, and there are lots of jokes how the guests of honor outnumbered the people in the rest of the thing. So that was also really comforting, and it was so fun to have. It just felt like any kind of house felt as well.
Well, that's really cool.
So yeah, that was really just chill and comfortable, and it felt like home in that way of, I think you have a similar, maybe not necessarily when you're doing TAF, because it maybe hadn't been as long, but I've been going to conventions since I was 15.
Yeah.
So like that fanish experience feels like home. It's very comforting. It just feels very comfortable.
Yeah.
And so while maybe I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, this was the highlight of the trip, in the same way as I said for the Merrill or for Niagara, it was just, I'm not really sure how to phrase that other than saying heartwarming and kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think the moments on my TAF trip, like obviously I remember the touristy stuff and like doing a lot of cool stuff in every one of my destinations, but the parts that felt most worthwhile almost were the big gatherings of fans. And I think, do you think that's one of the great strengths of going out there in person, is that you can get that interaction which you can't really get at a convention or online?
Yes, although I'm sure that you can definitely get it online for any fan fund winners who have to do it online this year going to their thing.
Yeah. I mean, Alison Scott, who at the time of recording is the Guff delegate, is going to be going virtually to Con Zealand, but then is going to be going actually.
Yeah,
she gets 2 trips, Anna. 2. She's gamed the system.
There is another. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think no, I do agree with. No, I think the we live in a different way right now of how virtually you do things. I'm not sure if necessarily that's exactly the same, but I think there is definitely meeting people online.
Yeah.
Versus meeting them in person is a very different thing, and I think that the Fanish community expert aspect, that's the word, is really fantastic. The fact that you don't know these people, but there's that element of like, well, you're family because you're part of the kind of fandom and part of this community, and therefore even if we don't necessarily agree with about everything, then it doesn't really matter because there's still that kind of that trust and acceptance, which is really fantastic.
Definitely. And do you think that's part of why TAF is like remaining relevant now?
Yeah, I think that the fact that TAF and Guff and Duff are, I hope, still important to people, and you can see that in the fact that people who maybe ran and never even won will still give their time and give their kind of effort to the auctions or to promotion or to organizing, like encouraging people to vote. There's that element of like, even if I didn't win, this is still something that's really worthwhile. And I mean, the whole point is that you get this amazing trip, but then actually you then need to continue it going for the next 2 years. So it's not really about the trip in the same, it's not just about the trip. The trip is amazing and it's a fantastic experience. But then after that, you have the experience of having to promote and support the fund for the next 2 years and get new people to go on it and support them and like drum up that enthusiasm with the community for it. So yeah, I think that's probably why, if the trips were, the fact that the trips are so amazing, meaningful, and you meet so many fantastic people means that you want to keep pushing that and supporting new people to have that experience. So it's a kind of almost a self-fulfilling wheel,
Yeah.
a good
It's like
trip.
I think fandom has a philosophy of paying it forward anyway, but I think it's like a codified version of that almost, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Um, So I know while you were in Toronto, you spent some time with family.
Mhm.
You mentioned also in texting before the conversation that you had met Merle. So do you want to?
No, I meant going to the Merrill, dyslexia.
Oh, fair enough. No,
Yeah.
it's just on my trip I met someone called Merle in Toronto, so I assume
Oh,
you also met
if
them.
I met Merrill, then I've forgotten. Oh, that's bad.
No, I didn't. I didn't see her in any of the statuses, so I was like,
No, I don't think so.
um,
No, yeah. So I met. I have a cousin from Ireland who actually now lives in mm, Michigan.
okay,
Is that the one?
that's a place.
The American state just below Toronto. So he drove up
Oh,
into
okay,
Canada to see
excellent.
me. Yes, because you can just do that there. What the hell? But
Yes,
anyway, yeah. So whatever begins with an M, I think. He drove up. Yeah, so my Irish cousin grew up in Ireland, but he went out there many years ago, met an American woman, and then is now married and living out there. Um,
yes.
yeah, so he came up. I think he came up with his wife as well, who's really nice. I think that might have been the first time we met. And we kind of just spent a day wandering around Chinatown,
Excellent.
which was fantastic. And it's always kind of an interesting experience to walk around Chinatown in a different city, because obviously I'm familiar with London Chinatown, but also it's a North American city, so the scale is completely different.
Yes.
Whereas in London, it's this like windy little roads and it's all very cramped together. There, it's like there's this huge streets and lots of space. But yeah, so that was really nice to see them. We had boba.
Okay.
That was the first time I had boba. And now, of course, you know it's 2020, and I wish I could still have boba because I'm a millennial. Um, to,
What's boba?
oh, it's like bubble tea. Have you had?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've had bubble tea,
yeah.
which is I enjoy slurping up the.
Did you have like the tapioca or the little pearls that burst? The chewy ones
They
or the
didn't burst, so it must have
oh,
been
the
the
chewy
tapioca.
ones? Yeah. Really good. I like that. Um,
I have looked it up, and I believe Michigan is. It does share a border with Ontario, which is the
okay, yes.
province that Toronto is in. They're actually east and west of each other because the Canadian-American border is mental.
Yeah,
But yeah,
but yeah, he like drove. Well, I suppose maybe not up. It is
yeah.
Michigan. Emily confirms. Yes, so he drove over to see me. So that was really nice. It was. I actually had to when we were in Seattle. My Canadian cousin who lives in Vancouver in British Columbia drove down to Seattle to see me.
Excellent.
So I had the exact same thing on either side of the country, but like opposite, I guess. But yeah, so that was really nice to just fit an afternoon in seeing family because we don't see them very much. We used to see each other a lot growing up. Um, so yeah, that was a really nice experience. Um, and yeah, they were the cousins we always got on with a little bit better because they're not necessarily as conservative, the family.
I love that you could say stuff like that because obviously this is for fandom, so it's fine.
Oh, I was going to say, to be honest, I wouldn't mind if they saw. Some of them I might be with mind if they saw, but never
It's
mind.
fair.
It's for fun.
Um, and the other person that you met that there's a photo of is Catherine and Colin's cat Seven, who I did not meet. I believe that was a cat that they got after I was there, but so cute.
So cute. And that was the other thing that was pretty great is I got to like be with cats because I think it was only 4 years ago, yeah. So we don't have a cat. Um, and grew up with cats, and so that was really fun to have have temporary cats again. And Seven was very cute. And yeah, I had to kind of, it was very difficult to get him to leave the bedroom when I went to sleep, because I'm not one who can sleep with cats. But yes, I used to spend a lot of time just kind of hanging out with Seven. It was pretty awesome, actually.
That is excellent.
Yeah, I think that was one of the best. Well, no, all of them were great for meeting people, but I just met so many awesome people, including Seven.
Yeah.
I think we also had a outside, like a pub. Well, I don't know if we would call it a pub meet, but
you did.
Well, yes.
That was going to be my next question.
I'm sorry, I preempted.
No.
Okay.
You went to the Only Cafe, which is at 972 Danforth in Toronto, on
yes.
Monday, the 1st of August, from 18:30 to 2 a.m. EDT. I have the Facebook event listing, Anna. I have done my research.
Facebook is helpful, right?
But there is a photo of you with several.
I should have just published a series of my Facebook posts. Never mind.
I cannot confirm nor deny that may eventually happen, because I now have downloaded them all, so it seems silly not to combine them.
We can put them. We will take all the photos from it. We can just like put screenshots of it in between the other things. It's probably a good resource. Yes, it was really lovely chatting to people. As you know, I'm while I am probably slightly more introverted than people expect, I really like meeting new people, and I get very happy and enthusiastic. And they were all so nice, and the weather was so amazing. And I had
lovely.
Really pink hair.
You do. You have such pink hair.
Photos. I'd forgotten how pink my hair is. I mean, by the end of the trip, it was kind of a weird orangey color, but at that point, yeah, cool, really pink. But yeah, it was really lovely. I'll need to look up names again. Like I said, I'm terrible with names, but you helpfully sent me a thing. Oh, we had awesome pizza. That was really good. Really awesome pizza. And yeah, it was just a fantastic day. I don't really know what else I can say about it. I think it's one of those things, like, I can't remember specific specific conversations. I just remember feeling like really happy, and everyone was so nice and friendly, and just having a really lovely time. It's probably not super exciting for the TAF report, sorry, for the transcript.
No, but I think it is. I remember the things I remember from my TAF report are the funny things that happened that got immediately turned into anecdotes, and the feeling of camaraderie and fun that I had. Yeah. But I must admit, reading through notes that I wrote at the time, like, there's so much stuff that I had not remembered until I read what I'd written about it. And it is you end up with this warm feeling more than a set of concrete stories. Yeah. I noticed that it is 10 to 8. So if anyone in the chat does have any questions, please feel free to pose them, and I shall either ask Anna, or I can, probably easier to ask Anna, and then we don't have lots of people popping up in videos. But yeah, if anyone does have any questions, feel free to write them down. And so I think that pub meeting was the day before you left Toronto. So you flew after Toronto to Seattle. Is that right?
I believe so. Like, just a logistical, I believe I went up, over, down, in.
That's fair.
That's good. A little Fibonacci sequence.
So Espana Sheriff asks, were there any touristy things on your list for Toronto that weren't Fanish?
No. I don't really think so. I think some of the cool things, like, I enjoyed just walking around and seeing, like, when we went off to the pub or when we were going to the Merle, just kind of seeing the city. When I was 21, I only went I didn't go see that much of the city. I was pretty much only there for the convention. And so I didn't get to see that much of it. And so
Yeah.
I think that you reminded me that I took a photo of there's a pride rainbow zebra crossing,
Yeah.
and things like that. So it was just really lovely to have the opportunity to walk around the city and like going to the Chinatown area. And so having the opportunity to get the feel of the city, which is one of the things I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And like in New York, that was one of the things I really enjoyed doing, just having the opportunity to walk around and see what it's actually like,
Hmm.
just out and about.
One thing I do remember about touristing in Toronto is the number of buildings that had Zeppelin moorings on the top of them, which
Oh,
I
really?
was super into. Yeah, because they were all built in like the 1910s and the 1920s, and Zeppelins were still a massive thing. So they're all
Wow.
huge Art Deco.
There was a, oh no, okay, this is something I might need to look up and try and post about afterwards, but I'm pretty sure there was an amazing statue that is
There,
tickling my brain and I can't remember anything about it,
there's a
except with the statue where I went, ooh.
there's a photo of a statue in your
In my kitchen.
photographs. Can I quickly find it? A man. It's a man. Is it? Is it a man called Magistrate Wood with like an excellent hat and an excellent coat?
Yeah, I think it probably was that. And I think there was a reason, like there was a story behind it or something, not just the fact that he's a brilliant name. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, for some reason there was that statue obviously made me laugh or was so ridiculous in some way. But I can't actually remember the details of that now. Christina's asked, was there a different feel to Canadian fandom to other fan groups you met? Um, I think Canadian fandom actually felt very similar to British fandom in a way, of it just kind of being very kind of chill and like relaxed and feeling of and kind of welcoming feeling. I think some of the other groups, there was a bit more not necessarily bad, but maybe more buzzy energy. I'm not sure how to describe it. Like there's a slightly different energy. It so but Canadian, like the two kind of hangouts we did, the party and the pub meet, felt very much like when we do the turn or when we kind of have just Spanish hangouts where we're just going to sit around and chats and everyone's kind of chill and everyone's, you know, having a few beers and stuff. There isn't kind of something that needs to happen. So,
so I have found out what the story was behind the statue,
okay. Is it
which is
interesting, or was it like, why did you care?
oh no, it's I can see why you were
Yeah,
tickled.
okay.
I mean, firstly, there is a hilarious etching, and I will describe, or maybe not etching, like brass piece of art. And I will
Yeah.
describe the art after I've read the story. So in 1810, a lady reported a crime to Magistrate Wood and said that as a part of this crime, she had scratched the perpetrator in a area which was normally not visible when he was walking around. And so Wood investigated this by inspecting several suspects privately, requiring them to undress. And to avoid the scandal that this caused, he fled to Scotland. And after 2 years, he returned to Canada and suffered ridicule and discrimination for the rest of his life, which is a hell of a story. But the brilliant thing is that there is a picture of a very serious looking magistrate inspecting a man with his trousers down, and his bottom is very finely depicted in the brass. And
Yes.
I can see why the whole he's very dashing in the statue, and then there's an excellent plaque, and then there's a very strange story, and
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
see
yeah.
why. I can see why. Um,
Yeah.
and how did you fly to Seattle? Was going to be one of my questions. So, was it
Plane.
a direct flight?
Oh yeah, but direct.
You didn't connect through Dallas Fort Worth.
Oh, did I?
No, no, probably
I
not.
don't
I
think
did.
I did.
I
Hang on.
flew to Texas on my way to Seattle from Toronto because I did that same leg, but I took 8 hours
No.
to do it.
Uh,
So I'm
I was very I took a lot of planning on my trip to make sure that I had good connections, because being nearly a decade older than you were, I was like, fuck that, I'm not doing connections if I can avoid it.
that's fair. That is fair.
I'm gonna make this as easy as possible, because
Yeah.
I'm even at the time, even though everyone else on the thing other than Emily will be like, you're not that old, there's no, even at that point I'm like, nah, I'm old enough to know I want to be comfortable.
That's fair. I went as an undergraduate, and I really sort of
Went as an
booked.
undergraduate.
Yeah, like I did it on the cheap as much as I
Yeah,
possibly
yeah.
could.
I
I
mean, I
think,
did it as cheaply as I could while still being able to
yeah.
avoid connections. Murray has joined us.
Hello, Murray.
Um, I don't know if it sounds like you might have missed most of the things. So you missed my talking about how I ended up sleeping on you for most of the trip, Niagara. Even though it's amazing.
That's fair.
Yes.
Right.
I don't know if any other questions, or does it look like?
If there are no more questions, I can unmute everybody and invite them to start their video for the trivial part of the evening.
Trivial part of the evening, where we all have fun and drink things, including gin.
Yes, we are pretty much out of beer, so it will be gin. We have lots of gin, don't worry.
Excellent. I wasn't. If you'd asked me, oh my top
wait, like 2 weeks ago, you saw. I forgot you. Andrew showed off the gin.
Well, and also I've met you and Hoggy, so like I know what your gin cupboard is like.
Well,
And
you have been and stayed at our house several times. So
yes,
yeah.
yes.